Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third session of the OEMC conference. My name is Connor Renouf. I'm Economic Development Coordinator of the Town of Perth and a board member of Ontario East, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this presentation today. So today we're going to hear about young rural change makers and how they help rural communities achieve their potential. So speaking to us today will be Gabrielle Ferguson, who is the Leadership Programs Director at the Rural Ontario Institute. And she's being joined by Oliver Jacob, who is a Rural Changers maker from the 2020 cohort. He's from Renfrew, Ontario. Then we have Maggie McBride, who is also went through this program, the Rural Change Makers cohort of 2020 from Exeter, Ontario. So with that, I will hand it over to Gabrielle, and also just as a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll get to those at the end of this section. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor, and welcome everybody. We're glad that you're with us today. This is a topic that's near and dear to our heart, of course, the Rural Change Makers. We did a pilot in 2020, and so we'd like to share the results of that with you and talk a little bit about, what we're doing in the future as well. And, just ahead of doing that, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. This acknowledgement of the land that we are coming to you from, I am in southwestern Ontario, actually down in Alvinston, and we're all coming in from different parts of Ontario. And, we just wanted to acknowledge those peoples that have taken care of the land for many, many generations. And it's a way of showing respect for the guardians of these lands and to honor our shared history and the relationship built on peace and friendship that exists between all peoples. We further recognize and commit to breathe life into the Indigenous 7 sacred teachings of bravery, respect, honesty, wisdom, truth, humility, and love. Thank you. A little bit about the Rural Ontario Institute before we start. That's the organization that I work with. And what we do at the Rural Ontario Institute is we build, we inform, and we connect leaders. And we do that through leadership programs, and we do it through data analysis for municipalities and organizations and industry, so that they can make some informed decisions about, what they want to do with the issues they're dealing with in rural communities. And then we connect people. We connect people with informational webinars, and we connect them around through dialogues around different topics. So that's what the Rural Ontario Institute is. And if you want to know more, obviously you can look on our website as well. And so the Rural Changemakers program, what is it all about? Well, the Rural Changemakers program is for ages 18 to 29-year-olds. So these are leaders in rural communities that are coming to the program already with talents and with connections in their communities. And what they're looking to do, of course, is to have a hands-on experience that benefits their communities. And the goal of the program is to build rural leadership capacity and to catalyze those things within rural communities so that they're working rural development outcomes within different regions, within different communities, and that it will be impactful. And then to broaden public engagement within rural development initiatives. And this rural youth capacity, we will talk about it a little bit later, but, we often hear that our rural young folks are leaving the community to access jobs, to access opportunities. And so what we're looking to do, of course, is to create those opportunities in rural communities so they don't have to leave. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. And of course, the best people to talk about that are the people that have been part of the program themselves rather than me talking. And so I do want to pass over the conversation to two of the people that have gone through the 2020 cohort of Rural Changemakers. And the first is Oliver Jacob, and he was elected municipal councillor for the township of McNabb Breeside in the 2018 municipal election. He's a young community leader and advocate for youth involvement in politics. And Oliver brings proven leadership experience through both professional and volunteer engagement, including the chair of Acadia University Students' Union and a youth facilitator with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, and the inaugural co-chair of the Renfrew County Youth Network, which was a fantastic thing to see. Was responsible, and he's dedicated, and he's hardworking, and I can attest to that from his involvement with Cohort 2020. And Oliver also brings a wealth of knowledge about municipal government as a result of employment with neighboring municipality, professional development courses in municipal administration, and as a member of the Town of Wolfville's Planning Advisory Committee. So welcome, Oliver. Thank you for joining us. And Maggie McBride, she's the treasurer of Exeter's Community Food Bank, where she's heavily involved in the day-to-day activities. As a matter of fact, she's done a little video for us on that. You can find it online. And Maggie was recently recognized at the South Huron Business and Community Excellence Awards with the Youth Excellent Award for her hard work in the food bank. And after completing her diploma in business accounting from Fanshawe College, Maggie moved back to South Huron, where she's been working full-time as a financial services officer at the Corporation of the Municipality of South Huron. Maggie is passionate about sharing information regarding food insecurities in rural Ontario, and you'll see that as she explains some of the projects that she's done. Welcome, Maggie, and I'm going to turn it over to Oliver and Maggie so you hear what's happened, from the people that are involved. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gabe. And I know I can speak for both of us when I say we're very excited to speak with all of you today. It's always great to talk with my municipal colleagues and our partners in the economic development field. And I know from two municipal employees that we very much appreciate all of the work that you have done and will continue to do to benefit your communities. So the first little part of our presentation is kind of just a process-based one. And for those of you who know me, I know we have a couple of Renfrew County people, I like process, so this will be the one that I do. So kind of leading you through the process of the program. So we were each selected in spring of 2020, and we went through some foundational training and development, specifically in community development. So we had the excellent help of Brenda Hirschmer, who taught us for a number of weekly webinar sessions. At that point, it was weekly, on all the different aspects of community engagement, from building your team to having the mission and vision discussions, all of those leadership development strategies that we needed to use to develop our projects in the end. This was a very helpful theoretical basis, particularly for me, where the theoretical aspect was the one I was most interested in. But it was also complemented very well with a practical application at what was called the Ignite Summit. So even though we were in the COVID-19 pandemic, this was an excellent opportunity for us to get together in person, safely in accordance with public health restrictions in Southern Ontario at that point in September of 2020, where we had the opportunity to test some of our knowledge, to have those conversations between us, and to practice the different ways of organizing both meeting structures, as well as having that participatory aspect. How do we put what we learned into action? From that point, we moved back into our own communities, and Maggie and I will tell you about our experiences of putting this into action in a couple moments. But really, the next section was the part that was directly led by our change makers. So the first part was community-based discovery sessions. So this was having those conversations with our community to see what those issues were. In many cases, our change makers had priorities or passions to explore when they came into the program. And this was the opportunity to delve further and see how those passions or topics like food insecurity, poverty and homelessness, youth homelessness, really look like on the ground, what the concerns are, and identify those issues at the front end. Quickly then, it moved into the action planning session stage. So this is where we put the issues aside and worked on solutions, working together to build our teams, to have those conversations about how we can make our communities better places and how we can make our community of the province of Ontario a better place overall. So through these sessions, we formulated teams. We worked with some great people, both young people, as well as people that have been involved in the community for a long time, or people that haven't been involved in the community of whatever age, to have those conversations and to build that community development or community engagement perspective that is so valuable in our local communities, particularly in our rural communities. And the last step, which is the one that we're slowly moving into, is passing the torch along so that it's really a community-led and community-owned initiative. So that if the two of us or the other change makers weren't there anymore, that the project would continue in the community, that we have the capacity of local leaders, both young and old, to continue these projects into the future and to keep their passions going. So now I'll pass it over to Maggie to provide a little bit of an overview of what she did in her community.
Perfect. Okay. So hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you here today. So as we said before, my name is Maggie McBride, and I am the treasurer with the Exeter Community Food Bank. So I began volunteering with the food bank at the beginning of 2018 through one of my coworkers who was actually the chair at the food bank. So I kind of offered up, if you ever need a hand, let me know. So it started as a once-a-month commitment into a twice-a-month commitment. Then they had a vacancy in their treasurer role. Knowing that I had a background in bookkeeping, they asked me to kind of help up to keep them up to date. And after about a month of kind of temporarily filling the position, I offered to do it on a permanent basis. So that was May of 2018. So we're already more than 3 years into it. And when it comes to the Rural Changemakers program, so as Gabe had said before, I do work in municipal government. And so in the summer of 2019, our municipality was actually fortunate enough to have a summer student hosted through the Rural Ontario Institute's Youth Engagement Strategies program. So because that connection had been made with ROI, a different coworker heard of this program coming up, and that's how I got involved. So as soon as I heard about the program and as soon as I applied, I knew right off the bat that I wanted to focus on education surrounding food bank usage. One thing from having conversations with members of our community, there was a really big gap of understanding of why a family may use a food bank, where our funding comes from, how we operate. There's just a lot of unknowns surrounding the food bank. So I really wanted to focus on providing some education about the food bank. So from the start, I knew I wanted to focus on spreading awareness of food bank usage in rural Ontario with a focus on the county that I'm part of. So I am in Exeter, Ontario, but we're located in Huron County. I used the program process as a foundation to start my project. So I was able to host a community-based discovery session with the members of the board at the Exeter Food Bank. We also have a distribution center that serves the entire county in Huron County. A representative from that distribution center wasn't able to attend our community-based discovery session, but she was available by email to answer any of the questions that I had. So I had talked back and forth with her prior to my session and kind of got the answers so that I could come to this community-based session with those answers to kind of help everyone to kind of act like she was in the room with us. So I was able to prepare for the session using several talking points, and I wanted to kind of make sure that I was able to guide the conversation. So it was a really great opportunity for our board to sit down and have a conversation about some of the larger issues. We do have regular board meetings, but there's never enough time to talk about some of these big issues that we're facing. We often just have enough time to get through the day-to-day conversations. So setting up a specific meeting to chat about my project was a really great way to have an open conversation with everyone. So from this conversation that we had, we decided that we should launch an education campaign. So at the end of our community-based discovery session, we scheduled another meeting for the next month with everyone to talk about the planning session. So prior to this planning session, I prepared a draft education pamphlet to be reviewed at our session. We discussed who to share our pamphlet with and the creation of a 101 resource document for our clients. It was important to all of us that we continue to share helpful resources to our clients as well. So we really wanted to have, I guess we decided on having two goals. So we wanted to provide the public with more information about food bank usage. And then we also wanted to provide our clients with more information about resources that are available to them throughout the county. And after our planning session, edits were made to the documents, and we just used email to confirm the final documents. And that was the launch of our education campaign. So we launched our education campaign in November of 2020, and our board has taken over this project as one of their own. And we're currently in the process of reviewing our documents and relaunching for the next year. So given some of the time commitments COVID-19 has placed on our board, we're currently just committed to an annual review process, but our goal is to increase this to a semi-annual review. Then I'm going to hand this off to Oliver to chat about his project.
Thank you, Maggie. So similar to Maggie, my project was very much led and guided by the work that I had done in the past. During 2018 through 2020, I worked with the Town of Iron Fire's Ad Hoc Committee on Poverty and Homelessness. It was a town-sponsored group that was created by council to talk about those two twin issues of poverty and homelessness, and to present recommendations for how we can work to alleviate those two in the greater Iron Fire area. So over this process, we had done a number of consultation sessions, a public survey before I came into the Rural Changemaker program. So that portion had already been completed. However, what the Rural Changemaker program was able to give me the tools that I needed once I finalized the report, which was released in November 2020, to take that next step of going from an ad hoc committee of council to a community council that operates independently of the municipality and independently of any municipality. So in our case, our community council is a very strong organization with over 25 members and 10 to 15 active participants at every meeting. And our mission is to advocate and to work towards the completion of the recommendations in the report that you see on your screen. There are a fair number of recommendations, around 52 of them. In addition, there are a couple that our community council has added over the last few months to make sure that we maintain closeness with the realities on the ground, the needs of our community as they change. Even from the date that this was published last fall, through to now, there are changing community needs across the greater Iron Fire community. So this was really about bringing people together, getting the right people around the table, and having those conversations about building that team. And it went from our community council or our ad hoc committee, which was around 10 people, now to the 25 different organizations that sit around the table now. Which is a significant accomplishment for our community in general. And it's a great opportunity for us to make sure that all of the voices around the table are relevant and that we have everyone around the table that we need to fulfill our mandate. The one unique thing about our group is that because our focus is poverty and homelessness, we really want to make sure that in addition to our community stakeholders, we involve people with lived experience, people that have lived in poverty, experienced homelessness, or that are currently living in poverty or experiencing homelessness, so that we can understand what that perspective is from the people that are directly impacted. It's one thing to work with community partners, community service providers, Ontario Works, to get perspectives and the opinions and knowledge that they've gained from their clients. But talking with the clients directly can add that additional level of support and also the additional level of guidance, because a group like ours functions based on that reality, that poverty and homelessness has existed in our community, and that we need a whole of community response to find a solution and to alleviate the issue. So from our group, our first action was to create a one-year work plan, which involved idea prioritization and the creation of working groups based on passion and expertise. We know that all of our members of our community council have a lot to share, and it was important for us to make sure that we had the people who were passionate on the committees that fit with their passion, but also the people that had that knowledge base that could assist the other members of the committee. So the next part of our presentation is actually to show a video from some of the discussions that we had at our Ignite session. It does sometimes have a challenge. We all have rural internet, as many of you can understand. So hopefully the video will be all good. And I will let Gabe go for it momentarily.
I think we can all acknowledge that we are currently in a conjuncture where change is inevitable. We are at this opportunity where there is a significant amount of disruption. And instead of considering it as a problem, we can consider it an opportunity. Rural Changemakers has given me the tools to be able to address those changes and how we can move forward. So now I can go into my own community and say, look at all these tools. There are so many that are available to us, and then have a discussion with our community on how we move forward.
Ideas get brought up in communities, but then nothing happens with it. So I think that this program is actually giving us the tools to go out there and actually create.
I'm a change maker because I wanted to reconnect with my community after moving away for university.
I am a change maker because I think rural communities' greatest asset is their ability out of necessity to come together, collaborate, connect, and really work together to create change.
I want to be a rural change maker because I believe that youth, such as myself, we have like the drive, the innovation, the creativity, and like the passion to like create effective change in our community.
Rural change makers made it possible for me to promote diversity while also improving youth literacy.
Rural Changemakers made it possible for me to develop the skills and theoretical knowledge to launch a community development project in my community.
The Rural Changemakers program has allowed me to take the information learned and bring it back to my community to help the youth and engage the youth within my community. The Rural Changemaker program provided me with the tools, framework, and communication skills I needed to direct my passion to facilitate meaningful change in my community.
Rural Changemakers made it possible for me to connect with like-minded, passionate youth from throughout the province.
I've always prescribed to a philosophy of the more I learn, the less I know. Being a rural change maker has really enlightened that thought process and has given me the opportunity to learn from more people and want to prescribe to more learning experiences.
The Rural Changemakers has been a really helpful program as far as being a rural community leader. It brought us into contact with people our own age that are doing similar things, and we've seen a really strong cross-pollination of ideas at this Ignite weekend here.
We can connect with each other, share ideas, and it also the program is giving us the confidence to go into our communities and use a lot of the tools that we've learned here.
We've learned tools that we didn't know of and integrated them right away, and it's, as a whole, making all of us better community leaders.
My name is Emily Kyle, and I'm a rural change maker.
My name's Alexis, and I'm a rural change maker.
Thank you, Gabe. So I know the video doesn't always work well for everyone, so if you are looking for it, you can find it on YouTube. So this next slide is kind of a little bit about the benefits of engaging youth. And I have learned this myself in my community because we in Renfrew County, as many of you have seen in your communities, we have experienced a large out-migration of youth. And it has been a trend that's been fairly consistent over the last 15 or 20 years. So one of the benefits, I'll start with the second one, then I'll move back to the first, is keeping youth in rural communities. If we provide youth with the skills that they need to be engaged community actors in their local communities, it creates those ties that entice them to stay or entice them to return following post-secondary. Many of our students leave for education purposes, to go to university or college, and it's at that point that they decide not to return. So making sure that they have those pre-existing ties before they go to school is a very helpful way of attracting them and retaining them in rural communities. And the first one, which is one that I know very well, the reality of who will be our next mayors, councillors, CAOs, and economic developers. As a young person myself and a councillor, I've already been seeing the change that we've seen over the last few years, the reality that municipal councils are changing, that we need that new generation to put their name forward, to run for election, and to share their ideas and their passion for their community. And by engaging youth at the young level, whether that's in grade 5, when they're first learning about government, or grade 10, when they're going through their civics courses, or indeed in their college or university journeys, by focusing at that point, at that young point of intervention, we can help to build the skills that our youth will need to be leaders in both their communities and whatever community they ultimately decide to live in for the remainder of their life, while also teaching them the importance of community. Rural communities are so vibrant and so passionate about maintaining their status and their vibrant aspect. Rural communities have some of the most generous and thoughtful and generally happy people. And I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that that culture is an important aspect to community and is an important aspect to making sure that our young leaders have the skills and knowledge they need to keep that going into the next generations.
Okay, so I've come up here with about 5 different points, about how to engage youth. So the first one I wanted to chat about was make your objectives clear. So when you're trying to look for volunteers, try and post like a job description. Make the volunteers, sorry, Dave, can I get you to mute your microphone? Sorry, thank you. So lay out the tasks that the volunteers are going to be expected to complete. So if it's stacking shelves, answering the phones, working with the clients, it's really important that there's a good understanding of the position and that it can be gathered just from reading the volunteer description. And it's also really important to lay out how the role is going to help the community. Before kind of interviewing for a volunteer position or showing any interest, it's really important to know how that role is going to help the community. Everybody wants to help the community, so it's really great to lay it out plain and simple for people to see. Next is tell compelling and shareable stories. So from our experience, when someone shows interest to be a volunteer, when we actually get to have that conversation with them, it opens up to share about what your organization is about and some of the stories that come along with it. So hands-on examples of how this position has helped people from the community. It's really great to put, I guess, to have the actions in front of everyone. And next is make them feel welcome. This really goes to any age group that you're trying to engage with. I think there's nothing worse than when you try to join a group and you don't feel welcome and your time doesn't feel respected. So also ensuring that when someone comes to volunteer, that there's enough work to go around and that their time is being used effectively. Next, there's make the opportunity feasible. So here I just wanted to speak to the time commitment that's expected. So keep in mind, if you're trying to attract youth, that daytime shifts might not be the best fit. A lot of youth are working, and it just depends on what the role is. And just be mindful of the time commitment you're looking for. Tried to not start with like a really big ask. For me, the foot in the door in my organization was a once a month commitment, and that seemed really doable to get started. And finally is be open to suggestions. When you're volunteering, as I said before, you want to feel like you're part of the team, and being part of the team is that you get to make some suggestions. A lot of time, youth will find some efficiencies that can be gained through the use of technology. So just be open to any feedback that someone has. It's one thing to say that you're open to feedback, but actually put those words into actions. That's everything that I have there. Gabe?
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Oliver. And obviously, everybody knows now why they do most of the speaking, because they have the experience and the skills and the talents that really explain rural change makers the best. One of the things that we had the opportunity to do with this pilot program was bring in a third-party evaluator of the program. Is something that I would recommend for any of you going underneath this type of a program, is that you put this evaluation piece underneath it. And what it does is it certainly illustrated to us the benefit of the program. You know, if this is a infographic that we created based on that evaluation, and you know, we had 14 rural communities across Ontario. And again, this was in a pilot, 16 people, 14 communities that actually had projects moving forward in them. And if you go actually down to the bottom right-hand corner, what I think is fascinating is when the rural youth came into the program, 45% of them said, yeah, you know, I think I'll stay in my community. I see opportunities here for me. And by the end of the program, after being involved and doing the projects and becoming engaged, 72% of them said that they were likely to stay in their local community. And, you know, we look at 93% of the change makers reported that they were leaving the program with the knowledge and skills they needed to affect community change. And 91% of them believe that they could make a difference, you know, and have a sense of belonging in their community. And both Oliver and Maggie talked about that, you know, the sense of welcoming and the sense of actually being able to have an impact. And, you know, I think we need to think about making space, no matter what age we are, no matter how long we've been in a position, right? It's making space. And then this program is about getting the competencies and the confidence to go, and when that space is made, you know, to dive into it and to create the opportunity that you're creating an opportunity for yourself. So sort of a win-win there. Some of the things we found when we put this program together, ROI found, I mean, they seem very obvious after the fact. But you know how we'll put a program together and we put these advisory teams together. We think, okay, you know, we'll get the people together and we'll figure out how we're going to make this program run. Well, like, you know, make sure that it's youth-led. You know, you're going to put a youth program together, then make sure you've got youth on your advisory committee. And I know that sounds obvious, but as we started this, you know, we were going to all these experienced people, you know, what should we do? We brought in researchers and those sorts of things. And all of a sudden someone said to us, well, you know, how many youth do you have in your committee? And we're going, actually, I guess we better go do that, right? So, that's exactly what we need. And the people and youth are coming to us with talents, and we should be using them. Make sure the ideas don't get stale. I think that's a great part about having different cohorts. And what's interesting for us is the cohort 2020. As you can see, it's 2021 now, and we're in the fall, and we do have those people that participated in it coming back to help, coming back to give advice to those that are coming behind them, so they paid it forward and they're paying it back, and they're increasing the network. And our vision is that over the next decade or two, there'll be a network of people that have been in the program and can help each other. And can you imagine that network all across Ontario of people that have done projects and made differences and understand community development? I think it's amazing. And the other thing was this experiential retreat. For those of us who maybe have had a career where you had to have all your PowerPoint ready, and when you did a program everything needed to be scripted and you knew exactly what was going to happen every minute, let go of it. Let go of it, because the creativity and the opportunity comes from the people that are participating. Experiential means letting the participants learn from each other, and it means letting go of the reins so that it's more exciting, it's more vibrant, it's more relevant, and it's more current. So all of those things are very important when you do a program that's especially aimed at youth and especially meant to engage. So where do we go from now? Based on the participants' feedback, based on the evaluations, we have been lucky enough to find an industry sponsor. Lever will be sponsoring us. We're actually looking for a sponsor in the East Ontario as well. So shout out for anyone interested in doing that. We'd love to have you there. And obviously sponsoring tuition for changemakers is very helpful as well. So we're currently recruiting. We'll be recruiting till the end of October for this program. And it starts in December, the first weekend in December. We'll be having a welcome greeting, and then we'll start our webinars. It'll be 6 webinars, and then we'll have an Ignite session. That's the session where we do the experiential training. And of course, they'll be going out to their communities to do discovery sessions. So there's the deadline to apply, and just letting you know that the 2021 program, we learned a lot of lessons from people like Maggie, people like Oliver, and the other people that were in the participants, and we will be applying those. And part of that is getting away, from sort of this lecture-based webinars to still have the theory, still have the conversations, but much more conversational. And it's really about trusting the participants and making sure that they're bringing all their talents to the table, because that's where the power lays, really right there. Thank you for your time today to listen to us. I encourage you to think about it for your community, to invite anyone you know between the ages of 18 to 29 to participate. We would love to have them there, and we'd like to see the whole width and breadth of Ontario represented in communities. Thank you. Connor.
Great. Thanks, Gabrielle. It was a great presentation, and thank you, Oliver and Maggie, for sharing your experiences. This sounds like a really great program, and as a youth myself, I like to think I bring that same kind of energy to my community. And I know over the winter, we hired some local Lanark County youth to help our businesses with their digital infrastructure, and they brought a lot of passion that really rubbed off on them. So it's definitely key to engage the youth. So we've got a couple minutes now for questions. If anyone wants to type those below. I know I've got one that I'll just kind of start off with. And I guess, is there any kind of material that you could kind of supply, say myself with, to sort of promote this program, to try to get some youth signing up for it?
Absolutely. We have a whole social media package and an email package. Again, if you contact us at Rural Ontario Institute, I can Google that. Brianna is our communications coordinator looking after this project, and she has a whole package that can give information to youth that are interested in, and and a form that you can nominate with as well.
Okay, perfect. I'll look for that information then.
And we do appreciate that, reaching out. Remember, if there's youth listening today, and there probably are, you can self-nominate. You don't have to wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder, because what we found was that one of the advantages of this program is that you don't have to be identified by the community to join. Like, we're looking for a wider audience than that. Like, maybe someone who, maybe they've just graduated, maybe they've got a new job in the territory, maybe they're new to the community and they're going, I'd really like to do something. I'd like to get involved. I'd like to make a difference. Self-nominate, go for it.
Okay, now I've got one question that came in here. How is this being promoted at the secondary school level?
So secondary school, I'm assuming meaning the high school as opposed to post-secondary, right? Oliver can speak to a little bit. I know that he has been actually doing work with high schools, and that in terms of promoting economic development and getting involved in community, small p politics, policy, that type of thing. And he can speak to that. In terms of the Rural Ontario Institute, the target audience is after. It's basically post-secondary, so after college and after university. And so therefore we're promoting at the community level. We have done some talking at universities to encourage it, but we're looking for those people who said, okay, I'm done college, I'm done university, I'm done high school. What's next? How do I get involved? Where do I get some experience? How do I increase this? What's next for professional development for me? What's my continuous education that would make a difference in my community? And so that's how we're promoting that. We are not going into the high schools. You know what? If that's something people think we should be doing, I'd love to hear more about that. Oliver, do you want to share your experience?
Yes, absolutely. So high schools and elementary schools are great opportunities to get involved with youth at a younger level. The content of this program doesn't necessarily match very well with a student in high school. It is at a early university level, potentially a grade 12 level. However, there are lots of opportunities as municipal councillors, as economic developers, CAOs, to become involved in your communities and to have those conversations with your students. For instance, this week is local government week. I know a lot of my colleagues across the province are working in their high schools and in their elementary schools to provide local government week presentations to their grade 1 students, their grade 5 students, and their grade 10 students. These are great opportunities to start that conversation and to really get them engaged, potentially not necessarily in their community, but in their school community and in the organizations and groups that they work with already, whether it's a recreation group or whether it's an after-school program. Another very helpful tool, particularly here in Ontario, is the Ontario Minister Student Advisory Council, which is a program offered by the Ministry of Education that I had the benefit of being part of a number of years ago, that specifically assisted with training students in how to be involved in their school, how to increase the student voice in their schools, and to build community within a smaller atmosphere like a school. So that may also be a great starting point for your youth engagement journey. And then as students leave high school, it's a great opportunity to harness those talents and hopefully, depending on their workload at university, harness those talents as much as they possibly can before they get into the workplace.
Great, thanks, Oliver. Then we got another question here. What would be a path for persons exiting the program to continue with affecting positive change? For example, besides getting into municipal politics, what could be some other routes that they could continue to cause change in their community?
I think this program is so wide and so broad that there are so many different ways. We have participants that are entrepreneurs that are running agriculture-related businesses and that use this program to increase their knowledge and their ability to engage with their communities in the agricultural field. We have participants that work in the social services field, that work on homelessness. We have municipal employees, we have municipal counselors. This program is what you make of it. And I think that's the real benefit of it, that you can follow your passions, you can learn these skills, and you can bring them wherever you end up going, whether that's in a professional role or a volunteer role.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, plenty of paths to impact change right there. So I think we're over time there. So I think we'll kind of wrap this up. And thanks again for talking about this program. Really interesting. I know I'm definitely going to reach out after this. So on this note, everybody enjoy your lunch, enjoy the networking session if you're going to that, and see everybody at the 4th session of today. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Oliver and Maggie. Take care.
Take care, everyone.